Geeks and Gamers, Sports Wars community, what is the deal? The mayor's back for once, for the first time in I don't know how many weeks. I have a smile on my face. I got my gear on, I got my jersey on, and we're back with the Sports Wars podcast. As you can see, I'm being joined by just a gang of hooligans and assholes. Aaron, Brandon, Roy. Nah, these are my boys. These are my right-hand men. If these guys weren't around, I probably would have gone insane managing this YouTube channel and managing our group. How we feeling today, fellas?
I'm gonna get hooligans and assholes put on a T-shirt. Like
Hey, I'll second that one. I like the sound of that one. Just make sure you put the asshole under Aaron's name under the asshole.
Oh, jeez. So, needless to say, we got a whole lot to unpack. We're getting into that stretch of the NFL season where you no longer are in a place where you think you are. Now the league is going to let you know where you really stand. So first things first, for those who are unaware, this podcast is being recorded as the Monday Night Football game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs is taking place. It is going to be uploaded after the fact, but we will go ahead and give you some of our predictions for what we think is going to take place in this potential Super Bowl matchup. Like, is it that high caliber of a game, would you guys say?
Yeah.
I mean, the records show, but
as the records would indicate at this point, at least. Let's go ahead and start off with Brandon, who, like myself, hasn't quite been on the show for a little while, making a comeback. What do you think about this matchup that's going to be going down?
I mean, you've got two high-powered offenses, one defense that has proven that you can't trust them with the Rams. They've been struggling in recent weeks. And then you got KC. Their defense is starting to show up a little bit more. I have a lot more faith in Patrick Mahomes and rather than the defense of the Rams. And I think yet again on Monday night he shines and they'll go 10-1 and give the Rams their second loss.
Okay, Roy.
I'm gonna go the opposite direction here. I think St. Louis or the Rams. I think the Rams are gonna do their thing. I keep wanting to call them St.
Wherever
Louis.
they are.
Still getting used to that.
Yeah.
The Rams, the United States Rams, almost the Mexico City Rams. The Rams are gonna come out and do their thing. They're gonna rally for Cooper Kupp, who is lost for the season now. I was just trying to keep an eye on the. I was actually looking at some of the injury report here just to try to see who they're missing. Like I said, Cooper Kupp is done, but other than that, I mean, obviously the guys that are already on IR are done. But other than that, they're relatively clean.
Is Talib back?
No,
he is not.
Talib's on IR. He's likely to return in week 13 against the Lions. But I like the Rams, man. They've shown that they can win shootouts. I know that everybody keeps kind of harping on that defense, but I mean they show up when they need to. I mean, this is the same team that they shut out or did really well against some kind of low profile teams, the Raiders and the Chargers. Sorry, Pat. But the teams that can score, Chargers, Vikings, Packers. I mean, Saints. Obviously, Saints put up 45 on them, but it's Drew Brees. It's a Hall of Fame quarterback. If they can somehow contain Kareem Hunt, I'm sure they would rather Mahomes put it in the air. They got a good secondary. Again, I'm taking the Rams. Just kind of go in a different direction than Brandon there.
Mr. Morris.
Well, since I wasn't properly introduced, Pat had his little intro. Brandon and Roy said their little thing in the beginning. So, Aaron, how you doing today? I'll let you know the same way I'm going to let you know every podcast until further notice. King of the North.
Still,
I'm
King
taking
of the North.
I'm taking the Chiefs tonight, though.
Okay.
I need
We got
I need Patrick Mahomes to throw maybe 4 touchdowns and run one in so that I can win this fantasy game real quick. That's the only reason I'm picking the Chiefs.
Okay.
Honestly, it's fantasy purposes. I really don't care who wins between these two teams. So,
You can start caring for seeding purposes, buddy.
Yeah, we're going to be getting into a little bit of seeding discussion since we are starting to get into the later portion of the year here. As far as myself, just to kind of go ahead and keep things brief, and I see Orlando Scandrick just got a pass interference call. I think the Chiefs are going to pull this one out in a close game. I see it being a bit of a fireworks show, but my whole thing is this LA defense has pretty much underachieved ever since Aqib Talib got hurt. You know, the system that Wade Phillips runs, he definitely depends on corners playing press and playing man. And now that it's Marcus Peters by himself, that hasn't happened. And also they have a lack of speed in the middle to me. You know, their linebackers and their safeties are not the most assertive. So yeah, I think Andy Reid, you know, he put aside the Waffle House menu and he probably cooked up some shit to take advantage of that defense.
I hope it's a fireworks show, man, because the last game that we all expected to be a fireworks show turned out to be a flop, which was New England and Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the goat this and goat that, you know, battle of the goats. That shit was whack. That game was terrible. But, you know, moving right along into our review of last week's games, of course, we're going to start with the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Chicago, top to bottom, dominated their division rivals for 3 quarters and withstood a late rally to win 25-20 at Soldier Field. Kirk Cousins was under siege all night from Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, and threw 2 interceptions, one of which went to the house. Is Minnesota in trouble? And now who am I going to start with? I think maybe I'll ask Aaron first. Aaron, what do you think?
The game overall was a pretty wide range of emotions for me on a personal level, but I don't know about. It's tough, man, because the Vikings still seem like a team that's hard to run against. So I'm not sure about them. I definitely don't think that they're taking – I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that it's the Bears division right now this season. Right. You know, I'll save all the Kirk Cousins talk for Roy. So I'm going to just focus on the Bears while I have a minute to shine.
Certainly.
It was great. They won. It only ended up being 25-20. So this game was iffy for me because I wanted to – I mean, I've bragged about it, obviously, in the group for the last day. But the defense had to bail us out of some really tricky situations more than 1, 2, 3 times. Mitch threw a couple of picks that if the defense didn't sit there and bail us out and make some big-time stops, you know, those field goals could have been more than just 3 points. So that was pretty major. You saw the defense kind of towards the end there, I think, get a little gassed, which is why the Vikings were able to come back and put a little bit more points on the board. So, I don't know, man. I just want to see a little bit more consistency out of Mitch. I think all of his receivers and running backs around him are playing at a consistent level, and they all seem like they're – it's kind of crazy. I was talking to a buddy of mine, obviously here, you know, in the area that's a Bears fan, and we were talking today about it. And you got guys like Tariq Cohen, who's been told, you know, probably his whole life that he's too small to play. Taylor Gabriel that never really shined in Atlanta. Allen Robinson that was dumped from Jacksonville who had a down year. You know, I feel like this is a group of guys that kind of have something to prove every game, and they're playing their asses off to show people that, like, we're not, you know, kind of misfits or outcasts or underdogs. Like, we belong on this field and we're here to make plays. As long as Mitch can stay consistent, man, and play with confidence, then
sky's the limit.
I kind of right now feel like we could go toe-to-toe with just about any team in the league. So we'll see, man.
I mean, it took a last-second Hail Mary from New England of all teams to beat you guys. So, that's saying something. Brandon, I'm curious to what your thoughts are on Minnesota's future after this significant defeat.
You might want to unmute yourself before you go on about Minnesota and how bad they are.
Yeah, Minnesota's in trouble. They still got their front seven. That's not going to change. Danielle is leading in sacks. If not, I think he's 1 or 2 out. But other than that, their secondary is pretty much horrible right now. And it's getting beat. They're getting burned. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Miller, the rookie, went off last night. Gabriel had himself a good game, and obviously Allen Robinson, which, that's a testament to what you were saying in regards to that team. A lot of the players, they weren't given a real chance, but yet you're putting them on Chicago, who got a killer offensive line. They've got a killer defense to kill the ball and put it back in Trubisky's hands. I think right now, in agreement with you, Aaron, it is Chicago's division to lose. If they falter, that'll be on them. But other than that, I don't see it happening. They've got, I think they've got the Lions coming up. They've got the Packers again. I don't see Chicago losing the North.
Well, they got to win. They got to win 3 more games to make the playoffs. They've still got to play the 49ers, the Giants, the Lions, the Packers, and the Rams. That's 3. There's 3 wins in there, possibly 4. So, and to touch on what Brandon agreed with real quick about the guys on the offense in Chicago, I really feel like Matt Nagy is the perfect blend of a coach to figure out ways to make these guys play up to their strengths. And that's why you're seeing these guys kind of show out. These guys that were underrated in the league for a few years. So,
well, I mean, you could see the difference. John Fox versus Nagy. You already got an offense that's already putting up better stats in a year difference time. Trubisky feels more comfortable in that pocket with the blocking scheme. So I love the Bears right now. They're rolling. Hats off to Nagy. I mean, he's for everything that, as far as an offensive standpoint, that Sean McVay does for the Rams, Nagy is doing for Chicago right now. So,
absolutely. Roy, I think we all know what's coming, so I'm just gonna go ahead and give you the floor.
Actually, you know what? I'm actually gonna take the high road on this one. Minnesota's not done. Minnesota's
really?
They're not done. Look at the NFC, man. Nobody is taking charge. If the playoffs started right now, they'd be in. They'd be the 6th seed, but they'd be in. Dallas is kind of, Dallas is right there at the edge of the wild card. So is Seattle.
Right.
They got a game lead on, half a game lead on Green Bay. I think that this Minnesota team is going to slam that door next weekend, but we won't talk about that. Kirk Cousins. This is what everybody was expecting. Kirk Cousins is going to continue to be Kirk Cousins. Diet water, spicy ice cube, vanilla ice cream ass. Kirk
there's
Cousins.
The high road.
Yeah, there's the high road.
Look how he played with all that pressure that he faced last night.
He played like shit.
He played a horrible first half, and then him and Thielen started to connect in the second half. More.
But like you said, this is exactly a former Redskin. I don't know. I'm not sure how old I am. Fred Smoot, former cornerback for the Redskins. He basically is kind of along with what I say with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins gets his yardage and touchdowns in garbage time. That game last night, that's exactly what that was. It was they got their yardage in garbage. They got their yardage and their scores in garbage time. And like you said, it looked a lot closer than it did. But it was. They scored.
It was 14-0 going into halftime.
Yeah, they scored. It was like 25-11 or what? Yeah, no, 25 to. It wasn't close. It was like 22 to 6 or some shit. When
it was a significant discrepancy in just overall competitive energy, really on both sides.
Yeah, and it was simply because the defense, the Bears defense was winded from chasing Kirk Cousins' ass all night.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
at the end of the day, they're going to go 9-6-1 with Kirk Cousins at quarterback anyway.
I don't think Pat wants to hear anybody mention the Bears defense anymore, so we can move along to the next.
My main takeaway is that obviously Mac is the clear standout, the clear leader. You know, he arrives in that locker room under just the most unexpected, dubious circumstances, and he's automatically in command. But let's not forget the rest of his Bears defense. They got some playmakers.
Akeem Hicks, I think he got the game ball last night. He balled last night. And
I mean, we know Roquan is a monster. Like,
dude, his side to side
secondary that secondary ain't bad either. They're really
shit.
not.
Aaron, I could. Me and you talk for a while about that, man, because Roquan is. When he got drafted, like I was watching carefully where he was going to be drafted to because I was hoping that I could root for.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. I know Pat wants to. We got to move the show along, but the whole thing with Roquan, and then finally, it was really nice to see Leonard Floyd step up these last two games, and he's been kind of he's been kind of slow the first half of the season, and last night and last week's game against Detroit, he really stepped up and has been making some plays, and it seems like him and Roquan are getting that little Georgia DSGB flow together. So I just hope it prospers, man. It's been a while for the city, and there's a lot of games left to play, but I'm enjoying it while I can. So
definitely, man. You got yourselves an overtime primetime spot, and showed
quick
out.
Turnaround, man. Quick turnaround on Thursday's game. So
now, to move on to a matchup of a much different tone, the Houston Texans at the Washington Redskins. The resurgent division-leading Texans added another notch to their belt in a fairly closely contested win against another division leader in the Redskins. However, the bigger story from this game was not Houston's 23-21 victory. The bigger story was, one, Alex Smith going down with a brutal leg injury, the type that Roy doesn't want to see under any circumstances. 33 years to the day of Joe Theismann's career-ending leg injury. And in lieu of this, the Redskins go out and acquire Mark Sanchez. So a question I pose, and we're going to go ahead and start with Roy, is can Washington hold out and still win the NFC East under Mark Sanchez?
No. Everything I understand, Colt McCoy is the one that's going to be the starter. As far as the Alex Smith leg injury goes, it gets even crazier. I know that 33 years to the day is kind of a trip. It also happened in the same part of the field. Joe Theismann's leg injury was caused by, at that point, the only 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Alex Smith's injury caused by the only other 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Now, crazy enough, I know I've actually got a friend who is a Redskins fan. He also says that that the year that that year the Redskins actually went on to win the Super Bowl and with a backup quarterback. And so he thinks that's good news for old Colt McCoy. But I don't see it. Colt McCoy is who we thought he was. He couldn't hold the job.
Wait, what do you mean he is who he thought he was? How would you know that?
He was given a starter job in Cleveland. He couldn't hold on to
Cleveland, yeah. How many starting jobs in Cleveland have panned out to flourish?
How many quarterbacks have left Cleveland to be flourishing starting quarterbacks though?
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point also, but I mean it's one of those things where it's almost like who knows what AJ McCarron's capable of? Who knows what Aaron Murray's capable of? Who knows what Colt McCoy is capable of? They haven't been given the right opportunity yet. I mean, I think Colt McCoy is going to play a little bit better than what people are expecting this week.
I mean, they're going to keep the offense within his abilities, but if at any point they thought Colt McCoy was the answer, they'd have turned the starting job over to the cheaper option years ago when they had.
What is this Gruden's second year with the Redskins?
Jay Gruden? No, Jay Gruden has been. Jay Gruden has been
5 or 6.
Yeah,
has it been that long?
Yeah, Jay Gruden has been with the Redskins since 2014.
Okay.
So I mean, and
it's been a minute.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm trying not to shit on the guy because I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to walk into. Your team is leading the division right now, and it's the same division that had a backup quarterback win the Super Bowl last year. I want to say didn't Wentz go down? Maybe it was a little bit later on in the year. It wasn't quite.
I thought it was week 11.
Yeah,
it was in December that he had his ACL issue.
It was week 14.
His career as a starter, Colt McCoy's career as a starter, he's 7-18.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of those are obviously in Cleveland. He was given 3 years, 21 starts in Cleveland, 6-15.
Cleveland.
Brandon, let me get you in on this. What it sounds like it sounds like Roy and Aaron feel that Sanchez isn't even going to get a shot.
No,
behind McCoy. But what do you think?
Well, since Roy is bringing interesting stats up, I'll bring one up myself. The last time Colt McCoy got a start was when Kirk Cousins went down, and he started against the Dallas Cowboys in the game that Tony Romo went down when he came back from his injury. And that was in Arlington, and Colt McCoy came and started him and got a win with the Redskins. So, and I believe that they're playing in Dallas this week as well.
Right.
To me, no, Sanchez is not the answer. Sanchez is in there as a mentoring role, so I'm not even worried about him. Colt McCoy is a decent quarterback. He can't take a hit worth of shit. We saw that at Texas. When they played Alabama, and I know you remember this, Aaron, the phantom shoulder shot in the national championship, he has been given the made of glass curse ever since. I think with this squad, even with Michael Floyd on there now, with Harris starting to come up and Jordan Reed finally bursting out of the injury bubble, I think they still have a real shot at winning this division. That's all going to be put to test against Dallas this week.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I'm not going to sit here and pretend, but I have as much a background on Colt McCoy as the rest of you guys clearly have. I feel like if he goes in there and he gets skittish and they maybe drop 1 or 2 games, Jay Gruden is going to hit the red panic button and throw Sanchez in there just to see what happens. Now, obviously, if Sanchez flounders, then they'll revert right back. But Sanchez is a guy at one point who went to 2 straight AFC championships. Obviously, he's never, ever, ever going to live down the legacy of the butt fumble, but he wasn't awful either. But in general, Washington is a division leader that I'm not high on anyway. God, we're gonna get into the direction I think that division is going in a little bit later. But interesting stuff. Alex Smith, I wish him the best recovery possible.
Just remember that the Redskins of their next 5 games, 4 of them are on the road. The only one at home is against the Giants. Colt McCoy is about to get eaten alive. Jay Gruden, as cynical as this sounds, Alex Smith's ankle may have just saved Jay Gruden's job.
Let's not just rush to shit on Colt McCoy either. If he has a shitty game this Thursday, he's coming in to start for the Redskins versus the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in Dallas.
Let me. I know it's not like I was shitting on Colt McCoy. Let me preface that with.
That's just for the audience. Like, let's not rush to give this kid like, oh, he lost the game in Dallas. He sucks. Why did he ever get the start? I mean, it's Dallas on Thanksgiving in Dallas, Washington, Dallas. It's one of the biggest games of the year every year. That's some primetime lights for that kid.
Bro, I do think Colt McCoy is a capable backup. I do think he can come in relief and win a game here or there. But you're asking him to take over a team with a division lead with 4 of the next 5 games on the road. And those games are mostly, I don't say they're not, I think 2 of them are division games. Obviously you have this one at Dallas. You have the next one at Philadelphia. Then you play the Giants. That's 3 division games in a row. And then you go at Jacksonville, at Tennessee. And you close out with Philly coming there.
Well, they'll beat Tennessee. I'm just going to say Tennessee's trash.
So
oh geez, man, taking shots at Marquise and Gerald and a few others. Speaking of the AFC South, we had ourselves a good old-fashioned AFC South versus AFC North matchup in a matchup that over the last 18 months has more energy behind it probably than at any point prior, literally ever. Of course, I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers who played the Jacksonville Jaguars down in Jacksonville. That very, very stout Jacksonville defense stifled Big Ben for an entire half. Star cornerback Jalen Ramsey picked the veteran off twice, was able to pretty much shut down AB for the majority of the game. However, in typical Pittsburgh fashion for the middle of the year, a late rally lifted the Steelers over the hump and allowed them to retain the number 2 seed, probably much to the chagrin of a lot of Patriots fans out there. Let's go ahead and start off with Brandon. What do you make of Pittsburgh putting up, I believe now, 6 wins in a row over Jacksonville?
With Jacksonville, honestly, all right, I'm going to be honest with you. Pittsburgh didn't win this damn game. Jacksonville blew this damn game. Jacksonville had this game in hand, and they blew it. They elected to take a kneel down on a 3rd down, and it ended up biting them in the ass because they gave up too much time to Big Ben. To be honest, Jalen Ramsey proved that there is one quarterback he can talk shit about, which is Big Ben. Other than that, Jacksonville's done, and Pittsburgh will look good up until they get to New England. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic.
Okay. Roy?
I mean, we watched the first half. I watched a little bit of the first half, flipping back and forth between this one and the other game that shall not be mentioned. In typical Big Ben fashion, with those 2 interceptions, he tried to force things where they didn't belong.
Shots fired.
So that's how Ramsey resulted in. He played better defense than a bodyguard in a bar. So Ramsey backed up his talk with this game. I don't think it's a coincidence that the quote unquote trade rumors came out right before this game, and Ramsey came out and showed why the asking price would be very high if he became available. This one's on Blake Bortles. This one is on the Jacksonville offense. You opened a dominating lead. I mean, they scored 4 times before the Steelers finally woke up. Unfortunately, 3 of those 4 times were field goals. Josh Lambo is the highest scoring player on the fucking field. If they open up with 3 touchdowns, this game's over by halftime. So I still don't know what exactly Jacksonville's malfunction is this year. I don't know if maybe it's, I don't know. I can't really, it's Blake Bortles. And that's the only thing I can think of. They have to get some kind of downfield threat. Pittsburgh is going to be Pittsburgh. They're going to fuck it up at some point. They give their fans this false high of they're going to ride into the playoffs. They're going to get all cocky and confident, and then they're going to lose to somebody they shouldn't lose to because they look past them. And Big Ben's going to get rowdy in the bathroom stall again.
Aaron, you look like you have a number of things to get off your chest.
Not really. It's like, so I'm not going to spend time talking about Pittsburgh. I'm kind of in agreement with what the other 2 gentlemen just said. You know, it's the AFC's Pittsburgh's up until they face New England. Same story until, we see otherwise. I just don't understand why people still kid, me included sometimes, like, why are we still kidding ourselves about Jacksonville? Like, they're not a good team. They've got a couple good players on defense. Big fucking whoop. Blake Bortles. I mean, you sit here and say, I don't know what's Jacksonville's problem this year. It's their same problem every fucking year. Its name is Blake Bortles. So that's the end of the story. That's what their problem is.
Well, to that point, Aaron, our buddy, the New England lover, to the as far as the Patriot lover,
he's in the South.
I know he is. Shut up. His comment in regards to this season is Jacksonville celebrated their Super Bowl way too fucking early. When they beat New England, they blew their load. They were done for the rest of the damn season.
I just want to that's true too. And I think Jacksonville blew their season in the offseason when they got rid of their 2 best receivers and decided to go with young guys that were kind of unproven with Blake Bortles at the helm. Like, you're just not going to get it done that way. Leonard Fournette has not played healthy yet, his an entire season. Like, he can't be the entire offense. He just can't.
Like, what's the Larocque's favorite? Fournette's got hamstrings made out of paper mache. Yeah, 5 straight.
I think
6 straight at this point.
Yeah, I think all you guys are pretty much spot on. I will say that I do think a little bit higher of the defense probably than Aaron does. I mean, we know Ramsey's good. We know about AJ Bouye, but there are some unsung heroes on that defense. Calais Campbell, Telvin Smith, Tashawn Gibson, who was a safety, I believe, in Cleveland at some point, and he comes to Jacksonville and he's taken on Gronk one-on-one and pretty much holding him up a few weeks ago. But yeah, it's not complicated. It's very rudimentary. Blake Bortles has a very, very distinct ceiling. He has a minute amount of plays in a certain scheme that he's comfortable with. And if you ask him to do anything outside of that, it's over. It's done. And, when you have a quarterback that has those types of limitations, once you call those 25 to 30 plays, but now it's the end of the 3rd quarter and you still have 17 minutes of football left to play, what are you going to do? So, it's their season last year was the result of a lot of injuries and turmoil around them. And, Ramsey and some of these other guys, they're going to have to ride it out until they decide what they want to do with Bortles. Pretty much that simple. And then last but not least for our reviews of last week, in a very, very closely played and pretty compelling NFC matchup that didn't get a whole lot of attention in terms of the national discourse yesterday, the Panthers and the Lions. Both Cam Newton and Matt Stafford, respectively, played pretty well. The defenses were able to hold it from being a complete fucking shootout. However, at the end, Carolina decided to hand victory over to Detroit in a highly questionable 2-point conversion that ended in a dud incompletion. Carolina, after 2 consecutive road losses, is now 6-4. Detroit, which has looked terrible outside of their Week 3 Super Bowl against New England, ended up getting another win, which may or may not take some heat off of Matt Patricia. How do we feel overall about this? Let me start with Roy.
I mean, I don't really know what the. I know what Panthers fans are going to justify it with because I've already seen it justified a couple times. The reason they went for 2 is because Graham Gano had already missed 1 extra point and had already missed a field goal. But you can't go giving Gano his praise for what that long ass kick against the Giants to win the game, and then not have confidence in him to go out to march him out there to kick an extra point and take it to overtime. So I don't really know what the deal is there.
It's Riverboat Ron Rivera.
They've lost 2 straight. Against been embarrassed by Pittsburgh, and then they lose to Detroit. They can try to get things back on track against Seattle, but they're definitely going to get it back on track against Tampa after that. They're at kind of a crossroads in their season. This is kind of where it's the next 3 games are going to be big.
I won't be shocked if they lose to Seattle.
I actually wouldn't either. But Tampa, they have Tampa, they have Cleveland, and as someone who watched Cleveland roll, you don't know what Cleveland team's going to show up. They very well could win. It's in Cleveland. They do have a very, very tough stretch to close out the year. They could win the next 3 and then lose the last 3 and go 9-7. The last 3 are New Orleans, 2 against New Orleans and 1 against Atlanta, who they've already lost to us once this year. So 9-7 is a real possibility, and they are fighting for a wild card right now. So they I don't know what it is exactly that they need to do to get their shit together. I don't think it's a good look going for 2 at home with Graham Gano, who is a solid kicker. So don't let Panthers fans make that excuse. Own that shit. Ron took a gamble, and he came up snake eyes. So
yeah. Aaron, I'm very curious how you feel, because this is a matchup between your hated division foes, the Lions, and that convicted thief, criminal, thug, felon, horrible, worst person ever, terrorist, Antichrist, Cam Newton. How do you feel?
I feel like somebody's got to buy a bunch of turkeys for kids just to make up for all their past sins. And then everybody wants.
Did Nino Brown do that shit in New Jack City?
Yeah. What about all the other players that donate and do a bunch of shit all the time? But because it's Cam, we got to talk about it and celebrate it. Anyway, I'll say something nice about the Panthers, which I rarely do. We finally got to see DJ Moore come out and have a breakout game. The rookie that I've been looking forward to seeing all year. I drafted him in my dynasty league as one of my wide receivers. This kid can be great, and I think he is a great player talent-wise. We just haven't gotten the chance to see it yet this season, and we finally did. I think he had 157 yards and a touchdown, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Here's what I'll say: the Panthers are never going to win a Super Bowl with Cam Newton. That's a fact. Cam Newton has so many rushing yards. Well, guess what quarterback has more rushing yards than Cam Newton? His name's Mitch Trubisky, and he plays for fucking Chicago. So There's a fact also. I don't know. The Carolina Panthers should not have lost a game to Detroit. Just like New England shouldn't have lost a game to Detroit. It was one of those weird fluke games that just happens, and I can't really sit here and begin to explain why. It's fucking Detroit. Detroit is not a good team. They have a good running back for the first time in their life since, one of the greatest running backs of all time, and they've got a good quarterback. And other than that, they're trash. So,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't feel bad about that, though.
Brandon?
I mean, on the one hand, I am happy because Carolina lost. I love watching the division tank, even though we are. Sorry, Roy, truth hurts. On the other hand, I got to see a former Georgia quarterback beat a former Auburn quarterback. That even more.
Didn't even
better
honestly
on that one.
That didn't even cross my mind, but that's interesting.
Yeah. And thirdly of all, Carolina fans, they're going to say what they want to. Oh, there's nothing to worry about. We got him. My question is, what would be more embarrassing? You lose to Detroit at home or getting your ass whipped by Pittsburgh? I don't know which one's more embarrassing, especially if you're a team that wants to be called a playoff team.
I know which one's more embarrassing. It's losing to Detroit.
True. I give you that, Aaron. In regards to this, Carolina, they've got a tough schedule coming up. I don't see them making playoffs. That's part seeing it and part wanting it not to happen. But honestly, yeah, Detroit needs to go back to the drawing board. They just need to gut the entire organization.
Well, see, I gotta slightly disagree when you say that you don't see Carolina making the playoffs, because if everything keeps going the way we hope here in Chicago it goes, I think that's what I saw as the first round is Chicago, Carolina.
Oh, well, you could always get Minnesota and just beat on them some more.
Well, in response to the last two gentlemen in particular, Brandon, I'm in agreement with you somewhat. I think Patricia is trash. I think he literally took the job so that he could have a chance to beat his mentor in a professional environment on a nationally televised game. And since then, he hasn't given two fucks. I think Detroit's roster, talent-wise, is decent. It still needs a lot of work, but, I mean, they do have some decent guys. Darius Slay, Diggs comes to mind. Of course, Kerryon Johnson, like Aaron said, is the first decent running back.
I forgot about Galladay, too. He's good.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
okay.
They have some decent pieces. But Matt Patricia ain't it, Chief. He's not the guy. And as far as Carolina goes, okay, yeah, they got blown out by Pittsburgh on Thursday night, but Pittsburgh has pretty much been running through the entire NFC South this year. They'll probably get blown out by the Saints, but then again, the Saints are blowing out everyone who's put in front of them, except Ryan Fitzpatrick, apparently. Between the Panthers and the Vikings, I think the Panthers have a much better shot at a wild card because Cam Newton has played more consistently than Kirk Cousins has. Even in their losses, Newton has been better overall.
He's a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. I'll take Cam Newton over Kirk Cousins every single day for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
and that's fucking saying something because Aaron's hate boner for Cam is like unmatched.
Enormous.
Yeah, no, I have way more faith in Cam Newton than Kirk Cousins. Man.
Aaron's hate boner for Cam is almost as big as my hate boner for Kirk Cousins.
Might be the equivalent of your love boner for LeBron.
I don't know about all that. Anyway, moving right along to a matchup that Aaron and Roy can come together in their respective hatred of the two parties involved. The Green Bay Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings, an NFC North matchup that Aaron probably wishes will end in a tie. if not injuries. Nah, I won't go that far, but a tie nonetheless. The all-time greatest GOAT ever in all the universe, literally the best human being to ever walk the face of a planet, the holy beard, the California. Okay, I'll stop bullshitting. Aaron Rodgers versus this Minnesota defense. How do we feel, Brandon? Let's start with you, since you I won't go as far as these other guys as to call you a Green Bay fan, but I do know you have a little bit of an interest there. You know, kind of like I have a little bit of an interest in Seattle. I'll be fair, you know, with the comparison. What do you think?
Well, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've had nothing positive to say about Green Bay all season long. They're trash.
They show up to games on time.
The most beautiful game that they've played all year has been, in fact, against Minnesota. That being said,
they fucking tied it.
but that's the best that they've done. They haven't done anything else. I mean, they show up to games, they either get blown out and come back and make it look appealing, or they just get blown out completely. Their defense completely needs a rebuild, and their offense is floundering. I think they just lost Jimmy Graham, who may be out this game. To be honest, I think even with everything going on, I still don't think Kirk Cousins can beat Aaron Rodgers. He sucks.
Roy,
Just my opinion.
I'm actually I'm gonna jump probably side with Aaron here. I think Minnesota's gonna beat them. I think they're this season for Green Bay is finally gonna get that fucking door slammed on it. Could be obviously because with a loss here, 4-6-1, they don't get double-digit wins, and you almost need double-digit wins to even make the playoffs. That would officially slam the door on Green Bay. Not to mention, not only will they the best they could be is 9-6-1, but they will Minnesota will hold the tiebreaker. So that's one way they're edged out here. I don't think Green Bay plays. I don't think they played Carolina. No, they don't. They don't play Carolina. So that's the only other wild card team in the picture at this point. Dallas, maybe. Redskins are kind of hanging around. But they lost to the Redskins. So all tiebreakers aside, I think Kirk Cousins is going to come up and rally the Vikings fans again. They'll start with that dumbass skull and the blowing into the Viking helmet and drinking out of their goat horns and shit. Kirk Cousins will come out and throw for about 300. It'll be an interesting game. It'll be a shootout, but Rodgers will. What's the over/under on how many times Rodgers glares at McCarthy for this during this game? Like 2 or 3?
Oh, it'll be a good 4 or 5. Yeah. I think
so. Fuck the Packers. If we were having this conversation in a group right now, I would post my picture that I've had for like a year and a half of Vic Beasley tackling Aaron Rodgers and his all fucked up and mushed up face and shit. Fuck Aaron Rodgers.
Looked like he just got punched in the fucking jaw as he was going down.
Fuck Kirk Cousins, but fuck Aaron Rodgers more. So yeah, I'm picking the Vikings. I'm picking the Vikings big. I think this is where Aaron Rodgers decides to get hurt and sits out. I watched his punk ass give up on the during the playoff game a couple years back, and nobody said shit about it. I watched them march out. What's his name? I don't think he's there anymore. He was Brent something. Brent. He was quarterback at UCLA, and he got drafted by the Packers. I forget his last name, Jackson or something. But yeah, he got hurt during the playoff game against the Falcons, and he pulled himself. So
Huntley.
Huntley, that's
Yeah,
it. Brett Huntley. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, he pulled himself out of a game. I think he's going to do that here. He'll come out with vagina soreness or something like that. And fuck Aaron Rodgers. Minnesota's going to roll big. Skull or whatever the fuck their women chew up in Minnesota. Go for it, guys.
Aaron, I'm expecting your sentiments to be brief and to the point.
My stomach hurts. This conversation is so gross. I think Minnesota will win. Yeah, because top to bottom they have a much better roster than Green Bay. I don't know how to put this into words and not make myself throw up, but I would like to see Minnesota lose. I'll put it that way. Because it would put them one more game down from us. And the Packers are so far down that it doesn't really matter if they pull this one off. And just to have more of a commanding lead. Either way, it doesn't matter to me which team wins or loses. I don't really care.
Okay.
But to touch on something Brandon said real quick, that Rodgers hasn't done anything this year spectacular. I mean, the first game of the season, they were down, a lot of points against the Bears. He broke both of his legs. He broke 16 fingers on his body. He contracted hepatitis C. He got the swine flu, came back out and won the game. Like, that's not spectacular. Then, I don't really know what is. But
that shit was a fluke.
And I mean,
Chicago buries his ass the next time they play.
I mean, granted, Brandon and Aaron, yeah, he did all that, but keep in mind, this is all, 70 or 80 years since he stormed the beach of Normandy and took it back for the Allies against the Nazis. Like,
he's the only reason Magic Johnson is still alive.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No. Yeah. Green Bay and Minnesota. And yeah, I know I was making fun of the whole skull chant a second ago, but Vikings fans, don't get butthurt. I really don't have anything against your fan base, or for that matter, your team. I actually like a lot of the talent on Minnesota, even though defensively, I think in certain spots they kind of underachieve.
I hope they kept the receipt so they can return Kirk Cousins' ass at the end of the year.
$90 million guaranteed,
fully guaranteed.
There's really not a whole lot to dig into. Minnesota, top to bottom, just has a much, much more complete and explosive roster than Green Bay's. Green Bay's personnel is fucking shit. Like, it's terrible.
This is McCarthy's last year. I truly believe that.
Like,
dude, I think if
how many points did they score against? How many points did they score against New England's trash defense? Like 17, 18, something like that. No,
I think it was 17. Yeah.
Yeah, awful, terrible, just all around bad. That performance against the Rams, I think, was more of a fluke on the Rams' part.
But Pat, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any help.
Yeah, they took away his best receiver, Jordy Nelson.
Don't get me wrong, Green Bay and their conservative, just let's draft some kid from North Wisconsin, Tennessee Technical Institute.
They traded Ty Montgomery.
That shit, it's awful. It's terrible. It doesn't excuse Rodgers, playing like trash in big moments and shrinking and getting beat by guys who we swear up and down are not as good as him, Russell Wilson. It's just a shit show. And yeah, this probably is McCarthy's last year. If Green Bay decides to have a pair of balls and get rid of them.
To kind of go back over what I think it was Brandon that mentioned Jimmy Graham being out. It was confirmed today, he does have a broken thumb and will be out for the foreseeable future.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you
that sounds like a fantasy answer.
When you hang your hopes in terms of explosive talent on a tight end on the wrong side of 30, that's the kind of shit that happens.
I feel bad for that dude, honestly, man. That motherfucker was a monster in New Orleans. Just a touchdown machine.
Beast.
Just a machine made of touchdowns, dude.
He wasn't a fucking tight end. He never learned how to block. He was a big ass wide receiver.
Well, he scored a lot of touchdowns. He scored a lot.
In the last 5 years, he's been reduced to shit.
Yeah. Real quick before we go to the next game, if you guys had to each just off the top of your head, where do you think Mike McCarthy, if he gets a head coaching job next season, where is it?
Cleveland.
That's my obvious pick too.
I don't think it'll be Cleveland.
Or Baltimore if they do get rid of
shit. If I was the one writing the checks, it'd be fucking Detroit.
Actually, Aaron, let me take that back. And we're gonna be getting into this a little bit later, but my other pick aside from Cleveland, Denver. Because Vance Joseph ain't lasting this season. I guarantee it.
Brandon, you got one?
Honestly, I really don't care.
Tampa?
I mean, who?
Tampa?
Yeah, Tampa. If Dirk Cutter may be out after this season, no bullshit.
Who are the Packers going to bring in that Aaron Rodgers is going to take orders off of?
Condoleezza Rice.
Moving right along. Yeah.
There's actually one that they were talking about.
I'm just saying, I guarantee she doesn't spend as much time at the buffet than Mike McCarthy does. So she would actually pay attention to the the book and the plays and the playmakings, setting up schemes.
Are you saying that McCarthy's got a booth right next to Andy Reid at Waffle House?
I think that he owns the Waffle House, and Andy Reid is a guest in his Waffle House. Andy Reid visits Mike McCarthy's Waffle House, and he's allowed to go in there when Mike McCarthy says it's okay.
I'm just saying, then we got to get Mike McCarthy away from all that fucking cheese in Green Bay, man. We got to get him away.
Well, two teams who are much less food inclined, I would say. The Redskins and the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving. Like Aaron mentioned, one of the biggest games of the year, even if both teams in many people's estimations are kind of mediocre.
3 out of 5 ass cheeks.
Let me go ahead and give the Cowboys their lip service. They are America's team. They are going to be, if we put them in the title of this podcast, it's going to be like 20 more clicks automatically. They have won 2 games in a row on the road against the defending champions and against the Atlanta Falcons. Some people would say that maybe these wins aren't as significant because the Falcons and the Eagles are 2 teams with completely depleted defenses, although the Falcons more so than the defending champions. But if the Cowboys are able to pull out a win here, they put themselves in more decent position moving forward to maybe make good on the prediction of Aaron and Roy at the beginning of this season that I told them I thought was batshit crazy, which is the Cowboys winning the NFC East. But right now, considering the Redskins' injury issues at quarterback, the Eagles' injury issues on defense, and the Giants being the Raiders East.
Oof.
Damn.
Hashtag wait and see. Roy, Roy, I'm gonna let you take the floor while Aaron makes sure that he doesn't die. Go ahead.
I mean, we could. I could pull the receipts from my prediction, me and Aaron's prediction, the bold prediction. We went out on a limb and picked the Cowboys. My confidence in the Philly, I've been saying since pretty much the Super Bowl ended last year. I do feel bad for Washington. This game is for the division lead. If Dallas wins it, I suspect they will. At home, I mean, Thanksgiving Day, it's Thanksgiving in Dallas. It's tradition, man. Now the sad thing is this will be the 4:30 game in all likelihood. Most of us will be either between plates or
the itis will have struck.
The itis is going to take us.
You guys are going to be knocked out. I'm going to be at work.
You got that time difference too. So 1:30 is what 12:30, 1:30. You're going to be getting energized, and
right.
I'm going to be passed out on a couch. I don't know whoever has the most food. That's where I'm going to be. So this, I think Dallas takes it. They are on a bit of a hot streak right now. Good for them. I only fear that with the Cowboys making a resurgence, so are Cowboys fans. If they take this division lead, it's going to get pretty obnoxious pretty quick because we've had at least Philly fans will still be able to say, oh, we're Super Bowl champs, at least until February. I think the Cowboys win this one, but then they come back down to earth really quick the following week. This is one of the only occasions I've ever seen of a team having two Thursday games back to back. They play Thursday against Washington and then next Thursday against the Saints. And then they don't play again till basically a week and a half later against the Eagles, which the Eagles have got to be pissed off about because they're basically getting another bye week in between it. So I think the Cowboys win here, take the division lead, and then probably sacrifice it again back to the Redskins the following week. But like I said, man, Thanksgiving Day, I don't know how much of this game I'm actually going to watch because turkey. But I'm rooting for the I don't say I'm rooting for the Cowboys. I'm picking the Cowboys.
Okay, Aaron, what are your thoughts?
Pretty much in line with Roy's in almost every way. Cowboys, I mean, slowly proving that
Cowboys couchitis.
The more you clap, the better chances of possibly winning your division, I guess. I mean, you open up that playbook and it says keep on clapping. I think what you should title this episode is how to cure a Super Bowl hangover, because it seems like the Eagles really, really have that bad. So I don't know. But yeah, just I guess to wrap it up, as far as the Cowboys Redskins game, as much as I'd like to see the Redskins win because it's my grandpa's team, I think Zeke eats his bowl of cereal or whatever he eats and wins.
It's honestly a shame. Does his agent pay attention? Has he not gotten like some cereal endorsement yet?
I think his other issues are the primary thing standing in the way of that.
I mean, it took what's his name, Carlos Hyde. It took him all of 5 minutes to get a tissue endorsement.
He got a tissue endorsement?
Yeah, he did the touchdown celebration where he wiped his ass during the Jets game. Like he took the football and like wiped his ass with it.
I had no idea someone actually gave him an endorsement.
Yes, I think it was like it wasn't like some small ass. It was like Charmin. Like they were like, "Fuck yeah, dude, let's do this." And hold on, let me check and see if I can.
Well, you do that.
Wow,
Brandon, what do you got? Cowboys, Redskins.
To be real honest, yes. Like I said, I do wish the best for the Redskins, even though they lost Alex Smith. But to be honest with you, Dallas wins this one. I even think Amari Cooper gets the turkey. He's going to have – this is going to be his Cowboy game. He's going to show out and do something. Sorry, Pat. But other than that, Dallas is – it's going to be their division to lose, especially if Washington starts falling apart with Colt at quarterback. We already know Philly ain't shit with Wentz, especially with the injuries that they have, and Giants are shit. So
I honestly, a small part of me feels like Philly might not be done as far as their division.
Oh no, I don't think they're done. Like you said, just because of their division, because it's going to be
right.
These three teams are going to take turns tripping over each other, and then we're going to take turns. The Giants are going to take turns like showing up and then not showing up. So
only show up for the division games. That's their motto.
Yeah, I mean they'll show up one game. I mean look what they did with the Bucks. I mean, although it is the Bucks. Don't this is the same Giants team that beat the Texans. But they've also only beaten the 49ers and the Bucks. If the Giants beat the Eagles this week, the Eagles are fucking done.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, I just think that just the way this division is, that they're just going to take turns beating up on each other. It's not going to be a case like last year with the NFC South where all three teams was like, 10-6, 11-5, 12-3, or 12-4. It's going to be like 8-8, 9-7, and the other team's 9-7, and the tiebreaker is by which offensive lineman has the most teeth. Like, that's the tiebreaker they're going to come down to. Also, side note, I actually misspoke. It was not Carlos Hyde that got the toilet paper endorsement deal. It was Isaiah Crowell. It was in the Browns-Jets game. He scored a touchdown, wiped his ass with the football, got fined $13,369, and due from a company called Dude Wipes, which basically makes a baby wipe for men. He actually signed an endorsement deal with them, and it's on his Instagram. The catchphrase or with the slogan, "Thanks to Dude Wipes, I'm now covered. Never leave home without them." And it's him basically standing. Somebody took a picture of him standing in the bathroom with stacks of fucking Dude Wipes. So there you go. That's fucking brilliant. Okay. If you can turn a touchdown celebration into an endorsement money, that is fucking brilliant.
Out of all the insanely random things that we've been able to educate our audience on throughout the history of this show, that shit right there takes the cake.
Dude, get you
literally
fucking get you some Dude Wipes just because they were fucking cool enough.
None of us ever would have discovered fucking Dude Wipes throughout the entirety of our lifetimes if it had not been for this moment.
Hey,
bro, I've been to Iraq. Like, I know what Dude Wipes are, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not.
I'm
cool.
sure you know what Dude Wipes are, but you don't know what Dude Wipes are.
It's not cool. It's not cool to have shit stains in your drawers. I'm just saying.
Absolutely not, and no grown man should. Aside from hygienal concerns pertaining to the actual game, and since this turned into a broader discussion of the NFC East as a whole, since we're not really going to dive into Eagles versus Giants, I see this division like this. Dallas has not the most talent on offense, but they have the offense that has the most integrity right now because they know they have a quarterback who has limitations and they're not going to try to force feed anything. I feel like Philly is asking Wentz to do things that are more indicative of when he was fully healthy. And we all know that he's not 100%. When you look at him, when you look at his play, the way he moves, yeah, he's able to play, but he's not at the level that he was at when he was completely healthy last year. The other aspect about Philly, and yeah, I get it. I'm not making excuses for him, but like I tell Jeremy, there's a difference between an excuse and a reason. No Jalen Mills, no Rodney McLeod, no Derek Barnett. That means that Philly pass rush isn't as deep, and the guys who are coming to recover none of them are really young. And Malcolm Jenkins is by himself in the secondary, and the rest of those dudes can't stop a nosebleed. So does Dallas stand a decent chance to win the division? Honestly, and I didn't think it was going to be this situation, I'm going to go ahead and be a bandwagon jumper and jump on the Dallas taking the East Division.
Dude,
because
the look on your face when I said that pick way before this season started.
Oh yeah,
and then Roy agreed with it.
We need to screenshot that off of that.
I almost want to go back and get the screenshot, but I'm telling you, the Dallas defense, the front seven in particular, what's this fucking kid out of some school in Ohio, Vander Esch or whatever his name is, the linebacker.
Boise State, yeah.
Yeah. Dallas defense is real. Like, they are really for real.
And, dude, Sean Lee's not playing.
Right? Like, they finally are not pathetic without Sean Lee. That's a game changer. So, yeah, I think they smacked the shit out of the Redskins. I think they have a good chance to beat Philly again, and they'll find themselves in the playoffs. They'll probably be the least talented division winner, but nonetheless, yeah, they're going to get in there. Switching over to the AFC side of things, we have ourselves an AFC South divisional matchup. The Tennessee Titans versus the Houston Texans. Now, the Titans have had kind of a roller coaster year. They have lost some heartbreakers, and they've lost some games on some boneheaded decisions, but they also blew out the Patriots. Whereas the Texans started out 0-3, looked just really uncharacteristically bad, but now they've rattled off, 5 or 6 wins in a row?
7?
Yeah, like the whole team just woke up, and they're a force. They go out and they pick up Demaryius Thomas. I no longer have anything against Demaryius Thomas because now he's not a fucking Bronco anymore. How do we feel about this particular matchup? Let's start with Brandon. Brandon? I think Brandon may be having a little bit of a connectivity issue.
I think he had to run and use a dude wipe real quick.
Maybe he did. While he's using his dude wipes, Aaron, how do you feel?
I've got Houston in this one, man. I think they keep rolling along. I don't think Tennessee's a really good team, man. I really don't. Regardless of how many times you want to bring up that they blew out New England. I mean, big deal. So many Super Bowls has New England won when they've lost a couple of games during the regular season. It's not a big deal to me. And fuck, I don't give a shit about New England at all. I'm not gonna sit here and defend them, but it's like what benefit is to Detroit beat New England? Doesn't matter. It is what it is. But I just don't believe in the Titans at all. The bet that I had going with Marquise in the group for like a profile picture thing was that the Bears would finish the season with a better record than Tennessee. So I think that's going to happen still.
Without question.
And at the beginning of the season, I didn't think Tennessee was going to win more than 5 games. That's still a possibility. I think they'll probably win another 1 or 2 games. But Houston, who did Houston lose at receiver? Fuller? Is Fuller on IR for the rest of the year?
They lost. He tore his ACL.
Yeah, but they've got like other guys stepping up, but I just like
Thomas trade was direct answer to that Will Fuller injury.
Yeah, their offense is clicking, man. Their defense is good, obviously. So as long as Deshaun Watson, man, stays healthy and competent, then they're quietly taking that division by storm. And
I mean, I gotta say they're if we're gonna kind of put it out there, the Texans are basically the AFC version of the Bears. They're kind of sneaking up on people. Nobody's talking about them. Everybody's talking about the Patriots.
I wholeheartedly disagree, but I see
not in that they're in any way the same, other than nobody's talking about them.
That's not what I mean. People have been talking about the Houston Texans defense for years. Nobody's been talking about the Bears anything for years, so they're not really the same.
I'm only talking about this year.
The Texans have had a defense for quite some time now. They've had one side of the ball squared away for quite some time. They just haven't had it clicking on all cylinders with the offense, and they're finally getting it right.
If you asked anyone who's the Super Bowl favorites, Houston would probably be around the same place that Chicago is on that list.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, and of course they would name the New England, Pittsburgh, the Rams, Kansas City, New Orleans, and then they'd probably drop the Chargers in there, maybe Carolina. Not saying that list is right. I'm just saying Chicago and Houston aren't ones that would immediately come to mind. And talking about it now, I would fucking love to see a Chicago-Houston Super Bowl. That would be great. Not sure my brother in Houston would love it because oh God, it would get fucking ugly. But yeah, man, I like Houston in this. I think Tennessee's free fall is going to continue, especially considering Mariota is likely he's questionable for this game. Another fun stat to throw out: both teams are 3-1 at home this season, but the Titans are 2-4 on the road. They're playing in Houston. I'm going Houston.
Ooh, that does not really bode well. Brandon, your thoughts on this AFC South matchup?
Well, the Titans have pretty much looked, similar to what I thought was going to happen. I knew, with Vrabel coming in, it wasn't going to be something that changed overnight. They still looked as suspect as they did last season. Derrick Henry's kind of taken a backseat this year, and it drives me insane because I wanted Derrick Henry to do so well this year. Especially, now that they moved. Oh, can y'all even remember the running back that was there? Oh,
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray, yeah, that crybaby. But nonetheless, Houston, they're finally stepping up. Aside from the Saints right now, crazy fact, they have the most they have the biggest winning streak other than the Saints right now. They have won 7 straight games. So they're going to continue rolling, and they'll notch that win and make it that much more of a climb for anybody trying to come after the division.
Okay. Well, I have to say my sentiments on Tennessee, they're a little bit different from the rest of you guys. I won't say I fully disagree. I don't think that they have a high ceiling. I really don't see them doing a whole lot. However, I do think that from a play calling standpoint, what they've done this year in terms of the offense has been better just because they're calling modern shit. Like they're not calling a bunch of, World War II era I formation nonsense like the last motherfucker who was coach. And also the victory against New England. Okay, yeah, is New England in the Super Bowl damn near every other year? Yes, but I think their victory against him was significant in this sense. If you look at when New England has to go on the road through the playoffs as opposed to getting their home field advantage, almost a night and day difference. Like all of their Super Bowl berths and their victories were born through the AFC going through Foxborough. Them having a third loss at this point in the season against a team that many consider to be completely inferior, that would get blown out in Tennessee, that bodes pretty damn poorly for them getting a number 1 seed. I mean, at this point, with the other team in this matchup, the Texans also being 7-3, at the end of this, they might be in the fucking 3rd seed. So in that regard, I think what Tennessee has accomplished this year does have them trending in the right direction, but it's not quite enough to beat a Houston team that is just on a roll. So I got Deshaun Watson. Jeremy and I have been big on Deshaun Watson for a long time. The Rock disagreed, and for the first 3 weeks of this season, he was kind of, licking his chops, but suddenly he's gotten quiet on that particular topic. And moving on to our last matchup of this particular review, we got one of Roy's favorites, and we got one of my favorites, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Denver Broncos. Now, obviously, Pittsburgh came off of that comfort behind victory against Jacksonville, and the Broncos got a walk-off field goal victory over the Chargers. making the Chargers' chances of getting into one of those wild card spots just a little bit tighter. Like I mentioned earlier, this whole Broncos organization, not just Vance Joseph, but yes, John Elway, you're not the best GM. Do you guys think this game and what I assume will be a Steelers victory will be enough to push Vance Joseph out of the door? Let's start with Aaron.
I'm just going to take the Steelers in this one. The Broncos are trash, dude. Like, their team is 4 out of 5 ass cheeks. And the only reason I'm not giving them 5 out of 5 is because they got a couple of good players on defense still. And that kid that's that running back has had himself
Lindsey,
yeah, he's had some really good games this year and showed like some real shit. But you get rid of Demaryius Thomas. I mean, I don't know. Emmanuel Sanders is still good. They don't have the answer at quarterback, obviously. So that's kind of one of their biggest weak points right now. Should be, where's it played? Where are they playing?
In Denver.
In Denver. I mean, that's always a challenge. I mean, that Denver stadium and that crowd is always, kind of like an extra boost in itself. But I think the Steelers take this one. But it could be one of those, holy shit, the Steelers lost to Denver type of situation. So I'm not going to be shocked if Pittsburgh loses, but they shouldn't lose. So, but yeah, man, that's one team that we haven't mentioned yet this episode that, speaking of needing to rebuild from the ground up, right, including general management.
Yes.
That stuff.
I know Roy
organization and start over.
Roy and I in particular have been on that train that he is not as good as he's made out to be for a long time. Roy, what are your thoughts on Vance Joseph's future?
I think he saves his job this week. I'm picking Denver, just because, not because of anything that Denver did or is going to do. I think it's because Pittsburgh is about due one of those games where you're like, how the fuck did they lose that? They seem to get at least one of those every year. They'll come out after a performance like they had against Carolina and then shit in the bed for half of a football game against Jacksonville. They're due. Their last, I mean, they did it against Baltimore a few weeks ago. This is going to be that one game this year where you're kind of wondering, like, how the fuck did this happen? Because the two remaining games that I think that they absolutely should win are Denver and, Oakland. And of those two, this is the one that I think that they could lose just with it being a trap game, because they have the Chargers next week. So I guess that's the best way I was looking to put it. This is a trap game. I think Denver wins it. It's at home. Lots of field goals. I do think Denver pulls it out, though.
Okay. Brandon?
First off, I'm still shell-shocked by Roy's comment about Vance Joseph keeping his job on this game.
He's going to keep his job for just another week is all I'm saying.
Oh, gotcha. To be quite honest with you, a couple weeks ago, I made an errant statement, and Mr. Morris called me out on it about a certain AB and Big Ben getting on the same page. We saw more fireworks last week. He was frustrated with the way Big Ben was throwing. I think they do come out a little hot in this game, and then they go cold. I think Denver does take this one. And to be real honest, I still think that with everything that happened with the Demaryius Thomas situation, Elway's going to make it to where he's not taking the fire on this one. He's going to point the finger at Vance Joseph and tell him, hey, look, I did say we were trading him. You bullshitted him, and he's going to be the patsy. It's going to be kind of a Ben McAdoo situation, but not really, because Vance Joseph's not as stupid as Ben McAdoo. But anyway,
Oof, that almost puts it in perspective. Even though Vance Joseph has kind of shit the bed, certain teams have seen worse results from new head coaches. As far as the matchup goes, as much in terms of this panel, as much cynicism as there is revolving around the Steelers from us, particularly myself and Roy at times, I will give them credit where it's due. And one aspect of this Steelers team that gets talked about by almost no one, most of the major national pundits, independent podcasts like what we do, almost no one talks about how good the Steelers O-line is. Like, they very, very seldom allow real pressure on Ben. And even though he has this reputation as being kind of an Iron Man, he plays through a lot of injuries, he hasn't really gotten touched this year. And I think that deserves to be recognized. Up against a rush that has Von Miller, that's going to be significant. And, the back end of Denver's defense, they do play decent football, but they are not what they used to be in the form of TJ Ward and Aqib Talib and the rest of those guys who made up that no-fly secondary. I see Juju going off, and I see James Conner maybe getting worked into the passing game a little bit more. I think they might, throw him some wheel routes just to kind of feel out the defense. And Case Keenum, this is going to be one of those games where you really see his ceiling, because another part of the Steelers dialogue that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot, that Steelers pass rush is really nasty. And for a guy like him who needs to have every single foundational element of the game perfect to succeed, like he did in Minnesota, him with pressure in his face, TJ Watt and the rest of those guys, no. As far as Vance Joseph goes, do I think they'll fire him after this loss? No. But do I think it'll happen before the end of September? Yeah. I think, to your point, Brandon, I think Elway is going to make him the easy and convenient scapegoat, kind of like how the Houston Rockets made Melo the easy scapegoat.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to point and be like, boom, there, that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And to speaking of the NBA, to go ahead and touch on happenings in the NBA before we close out, seeing as how the mayor is back, the mayor is going to go ahead and address some things taking place in Oakland, all right? Just so that you motherfuckers in the comment section don't say, well, the Warriors got drama and that Pat dude ain't saying nothing. No, fuck that, all right? I've been busy the last 2 weeks. Was the whole incident between Draymond and KD an actual, a legitimately big deal? Yes, it was. I'm not going to sit here and cape and act like, oh, well, everything's fine. Pixie, no. They got into it. Straight up. They had a very, very rough spot. But the situation is this. Even though that was bad, it's November. The NBA season really doesn't start in earnest until Christmas Day, and it really, really doesn't get serious until post-All-Star break. The main issue with this Warriors team is that Curry isn't healthy, and I feel like this stretch where he hasn't been around, people are seeing that this dude really is the genuine leader and the emotional foundation of this team. When he's not around, all kinds of volatile shit can end up happening. Because KD is a firebrand and Draymond's a firebrand. Like, I don't want this perception to be that because I'm a huge fan of them, that I am not facing reality as far as who and what they are. And as far as that other team in Oakland, John Gruden and Derek Carr kind of, getting in each other's faces during a win in Arizona, that's the one that I think is not really a big deal. Coaches and quarterbacks, they're going to bark at each other. And it really, it didn't last that long. It was all of, maybe 15 seconds. If that would have taken place between a coach who doesn't show emotion, if I see Bill Belichick blowing a fucking gasket in Brady's face, oh, shit. But Gruden and Carr during a tanking/rebuilding season, if you guys want to call me biased, you can. I don't think it's a huge deal. And that's all I got.
I got a question for you, Pat.
Shoot.
The announcers in the game, because I was watching it on NFL Network, the announcers in the game, they've made reference that Gruden and Carr apparently have been having an issue for a couple of weeks now. Because Carr was pissed off that you're getting rid of a lot of his key pieces on offense.
Right.
Marshawn Lynch went down, and with the injuries that are occurring on defense, is there a chance that Gruden could be looking for a future quarterback in this draft?
I won't go as far as to say that there isn't a chance, because since his injury, yes, Derek Carr has regressed pretty significantly. But the thing that doesn't really get talked about in terms of the national media is that last year Todd Downing changed the O-line's blocking scheme. Oakland's O-line from 2016 to now went from being like the second or third best in the league to now being ranked down in the 20s. So, yeah, Derek Carr hasn't been as good, but he keeps getting hit way more than he was when he was lighting it up. Do I think it's realistic for him to be traded? Not really, just because if you bring somebody new in, now you got to wait another 2 to 3 years for him to learn the system. And if the O-line is still in between, you got some new kid getting the shit kicked out of him by fucking Denver and the Chargers pass rush every 3 weeks. So despite all the struggles this year, as of right now, I don't think it's that realistic for him to be traded.
Plus, I don't think there's a single franchise quarterback in this draft.
No, there's not. But I did hear that there's possibility that we could see A.J. McCarron before the season ends.
Possibly. I mean, if anything, I think it would be for the sake of making sure Carr doesn't get hurt, because he's getting sacked on average, I think, like 3 or 4 times a game.
And don't they open up and they're Las Vegas next season?
No,
season after.
No. Yeah, that's
okay.
It's going to be 2020.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry, got him confused for a minute.
Yeah. I am very, very curious as to the shout-outs this week. And since we haven't seen Brandon in a while, I'm going to start with him.
Oh. All right. First shitty shout-out is going to go to Marquise Boy, Adoree Jackson. Boy, if you don't take your ass to fucking school of tackling to save your life, you sat there and got burned, not by 3 yards by T.Y. Hilton, and just chased him down the field to watch him dive in the end zone in front of you. And that didn't happen just once; it happened twice. Boy, you need to grow up here and learn how to hit somebody. Second shitty shout out, it's gonna go to Josh Norman. Yeah, I'm gonna target him again. This boy, yeah, he finally got him a pick off Deshaun Watson. Mind you, it was tipped before it came to him, but watching him do the biggest flop of trying to intercept the pass that fucking Hopkins snatched away from him in midair was beautiful. And Josh Norman, come back to reality. You're not a damn cornerstone. You're not a cornerback that even ranks in the top 10. Get that through your head. Just shut up while you're ahead. That's it.
Okay. Aaron?
I don't do shitty shout outs. What I would like to shout out, actually, hold on. I would like to say you are foolish if you don't think that Derek Carr is not going to be, or he's going to be in Oakland next year. He's gone. They're drafting a quarterback. I wholeheartedly believe, and this isn't a shout out or anything. I just wanted to touch on it. I know you're moving on. Carr is not going to be in Oakland next year. And I do believe that there's maybe 1 to 2 franchise quarterbacks in the draft. I think the kid from Oregon looks pretty good. Either way, Gruden's got a bunch of first round picks. He's got more picks than players on his team right now, so he can do whatever he wants. He can have a brand new roster, and they could all be studs. Who knows?
He's gonna just draft Nick Saban. Is what he's gonna do.
At this point, he's memed and trolled so much that I honestly am leaning more towards he's got something brewing with all these picks, and I think he's going to make something out of it. But either way, I actually just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you guys, to anybody that's listening, watching. Enjoy the holiday, enjoy the food with your family. Enjoy the time off. Unfortunately, some people don't get that time off, like Pat. Whatever the case is, just try to enjoy the day the best you can. Eat, be happy, be with family, all that shit. That's it for me.
Most def. Appreciate you putting that out there for our supporters. Well, Roy, we've all been anticipating this, so take the floor.
You know what? I actually don't. I kind of a sideways shitty shout out this week. I actually kind of got my inspiration from a play that just happened. Through all the Khalil Mack love, rightfully earned Khalil Mack love, the forgotten man this season, up until forgotten man most of the season as far as like one of the best defensive players in the league has been Aaron Donald. He is slowly having another very awesome year. He actually just caused a strip sack, and the Rams defense just scored a touchdown.
Please don't tell me he's stripped Mahomes.
Yeah, that just happened like 20 seconds ago.
Damn it.
Strip sack on Mahomes. Rams ran it back. So Donald's kind of been Aaron Donald's kind of been the forgotten man. He like I said, rightfully so. There's been a lot of Aaron or Khalil Mack love this year.
Goddamn right there has.
I said rightfully so. But what do you know how insanely hard it is for a defensive tackle to lead the league in sacks? Because that's what Aaron Donald's doing right now.
Do you know that Khalil Mack has 5 forced fumbles in 5 games, and he's missed 2 games this season?
Again, I'm not shitting on what Mack has done. Mack has been phenomenal.
The look on Pat's face is just I can't even keep a straight face right now. I feel so bad for Pat right now.
Yeah, I mean he's got Khalil Mack is doing amazing, but I think in the same breath we shouldn't forget Aaron Donald proving why he got that contract this offseason, leading the league in sacks from the defensive tackle position. To give you an idea of how fucking insanely hard that is, the next defensive tackle on that list is DeForest Buckner.
Mm-hmm.
You made that name up just now.
No, he was a defensive tackle for San Francisco 49ers, and he has 6. So, shout out. Like I said, I'm gonna my patented shitty shout outs. I'm gonna for Thanksgiving. We're gonna take a Thanksgiving break, and then I'm gonna come back with the heat. So prepare yourself, and that's it. I'm gonna leave it at that. Aaron Donald, co-defensive player of the year.
Brandon, do you have one last thing to get in?
I don't have a shitty shout out. I just would like to wish the Saints a good eating during the day so that way they can go into comatose Thursday night and lose to the Falcons.
Hey, on a serious thing, I meant to ask this during the show, but it completely forgot. 2 seconds, like off the top of your head, since it's been talked about mid-season, late to mid-season, MVP. so far as of right now? Who do you guys got if you were to choose? I feel like we probably should have made it so maybe next week we can make it a little bit more of a segment on our reasons why. But I just wanted to get off the top of you guys' heads what your thoughts were right now.
Off the top of my head, you know what? I know everybody's just loving what Drew Brees is doing right now, but I still think it's Mahomes. And this is kind of Drew Brees' kind of curse, man. Is when he's having an amazing year, there's always one guy that's kind of having a slightly better year, and it's Mahomes, man. He's got 6 more touchdown passes than Drew Brees. The team, they got the same record, but Brees has got a better defense. So I mean,
yeah, I'm gonna go against the grain against Brees. I think that another player that's playing in this exact game that's on right now is having a breakout year, and I think that's Georgia boy Todd Gurley. That boy is doing it up, and I think that he is putting in that A for effort trying to get that damn MVP this year.
Well, Brandon took my answer. Although I was going to preface it with, I know for a fact that it's not going to happen because it always goes to a quarterback. But Todd Gurley, you know, he hasn't just been beyond excellent this year. You got to, you know, keep a perspective that Gurley was under the oppressive Jeff Fisher regime, and he never once complained. He never once griped. He never once exhibited any diva, you know, because that's what fucking, you know, old washed up guys are always talking about. Oh, diva this, diva that. He never showed any of those characteristics. He basically had a hard hat and lunch pail mentality and just went to work. And I know for a fact that it won't happen, but I would love to see him at least be in the discussion for it. So that's my answer.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, this is the same guy that me and Roy know very well. You know, he came into the league, and there were so many questions surrounding whether his knee was actually healthy, whether he was going to be NFL ready. And this kid has shined. And he, like you said, did it under Jeff Fisher. To me, if he stays healthy, he'll be a better version of a Priest Holmes or a Clinton Portis who was, well, not Clinton Portis, but actually Priest Holmes, who came in and did his thing and kept his nose to the grind, didn't really say nothing. I think this kid could be a huge star for the rest of his career.
Kansas City went 10-6 last year. Drew Brees puts up these numbers regardless of who he has to throw the ball to, who he has at running back. He's the most valuable player to his team. He is more valuable to his team than Patrick Mahomes.
Aaron, I'm going to stop you right there. I don't want you – see, now, God damn it, Aaron. Now you're going to make me really say what's happening here. I actually don't want Drew Brees to get the fucking MVP because I don't want to see the goddamn MVP curse strike in the Super Bowl so that we don't have to watch fucking Brady lift Lombardi number 6. And we're going to go ahead and end off with that, everyone. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join our Sports Wars community on Facebook. And that's all we got. Peace.
I'm Tom Brady.